I got to start with that. What do you mean he's morphing into Donald Trump? Say what?
Did you not listen to the second half of his speech, the State of the Union address, or I'm sorry, State of the New World Order address at the beginning, and then after he talked about Ukraine and unity among NATO countries and all that, then he pivoted to all of or many of Donald Trump's talking points, bringing manufacturing jobs back, make it here in America, the Democrats chanting USA, USA like they're at a Trump rally.
Secure the border.
Fix the border, defund the police.
Yeah.
So I think he stuck his finger in the air. His pollsters did and said, oh, my God, we're about to get crushed in these midterm elections. We got to go back to pretending like we love America and haven't sold out all the way to China. And so he did his best little Trump impersonation. It fell flat, inauthentic, obviously. But yeah, I think that the Democrats are realizing they've gone too far with their demonization of America and their anti-American sentiment. And Joe Biden tried to walk that back a little bit on, what was that, Tuesday or Wednesday? Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong. I was went on my pal Eric Bolling's show on Newsmax yesterday and basically said the same thing. I was like, what he basically did was take on all of the policy positions that Republicans have been advocating for years now and say they're right without admitting that's what he's doing. I mean, to have Joe Biden, of all people, when we have record illegal immigration now attempts across our southern border, to talk about how we really need to secure the border. And with these illegal immigrants saying they're coming because of Joe Biden's policies, they're coming because they know he's soft on the border, to actually look us in the eye and try to tell us this is one of his concerns was a joke. And the defund the police, or and now his term is fund the police, is a lie. I mean, it's not only has the Democrat Party been the one that's been defunding the police across the country, Jason, but they haven't been pro-law enforcement. The Democrats have been anything but pro-law enforcement, and they put cops in a terrible spot for 2 years. And I was just going to breeze past the demonization of police at every turn like it didn't happen with 3 words, fund the police.
Let me tell you what I found interesting about that, Megan, is he talked about, I think, a New York police officer that was gunned down and meeting with that guy's family. And what I think he left out, because, again, you know how the State of the Union works. They bring in special guests to sit in the audience so they can point them out. And when he didn't have anybody from law enforcement or that man's family there, that to me says things aren't right with Joe Biden and law enforcement or that man's family, or they would have been sitting in that office, been a special guest, at the State of the Union. And so it just screamed inauthenticity, inauthentic to me. It's the audacity of Biden and the Democrats to do what they did Tuesday night. Because, again, I believe all of that is orchestrated. I think there was a script about, okay, we're going to chant USA, USA at this point in the deal. They were trying to put on an hour-long television commercial for the midterm elections and try to communicate to regular Americans that, hey, we haven't abandoned you. And look, Joe Biden has always been a relatively inarticulate speaker, but I think he's always loved the word folks. But if you really go back and examine his speech after the Ukrainian stuff, he was trying to sound like Trump at a Trump rally. And I mean, the folksy way he was trying to talk, and, he really leaned into that. And, at some point, all of America is going to have to deal with the fact that even though Trump put out mean tweets, even though Trump didn't do everything right, he was right about a lot of things that would have put America in a better position right now. We look so weak and so divided right now. I think that's why Putin feels so emboldened, and why China feels emboldened is because we're so weak and divided.
Well, I mean, it's no accident that who was missing from the State of the Union was any family member of the 13 fallen Marines and service members who were killed in that debacle of a withdrawal from Afghanistan. This enormous success that Joe Biden told us he had. If it was so enormous, why didn't you mention it? Why didn't it come up even one time? Why did you pause to pay tribute to your own fallen son who died of cancer, Beau Biden? And you said maybe because of toxins from a fire pit while serving overseas, and you didn't have the courage or the kindness to mention those fallen Marines and service personnel. Why not? Why? It was a lie.
Let me give you another enormous omission, in my view, based off the way Democrats have behaved over the past year. Joe Biden was speaking at the Capitol, the site of Pearl Harbor 2.0. January 6th, allegedly, is, a date that will live in infamy. Our democracy, our republic almost went down. Never said a word about it.
Right, just ask them.
And again, Democrats have defined that day and this moment as historic, and they've used it to beat up Trump supporters and define them as racist, insurrectionists. And so here he is at the scene of this great historic crime. Doesn't mention it, doesn't say a word. It's suddenly dropped from their talking points. And that was him not doing that is the first hopeful sign, because January 6th is one of the days I'm most passionate about, because I think we've put a bunch of political prisoners in dungeons who were mostly for nonviolent crimes, for trespassing. And I'm a big defender of those people and think it's reprehensible the way they've been treated. There was one guy that just committed suicide after his continued harassment from the Department of Justice. Ashley Babbitt was assassinated in cold blood, posing no real threat to anybody, shot and killed by this Michael Byrd. I'm never going to let that go and quit talking about it and quit. I'll never not say that these people have been treated very unfairly, particularly when you compare how Kamala Harris and LeBron James were offering bail money to people rioting, looting, killing, causing chaos in the name of George Floyd. And to see these people thrown in dungeons and treated like the worst people on the planet sickens me. And so I just thought it very hypocritical. Somehow that talking point must not be working. And that's why it was not used at the State of the Union.
That's a good point. Hadn't considered that. I think you're probably right. There was the first guilty plea to, quote, seditious conspiracy by one of the January 6th protesters. He's from one of these sort of far right groups. So they got their one that they've been looking for, somebody to plead guilty to that crime. I have to tell you, the Ashley Babbitt thing, who's to say whether that cop felt genuinely under threat? It was a very chaotic situation. I don't want to make excuses for the January 6th rioters to be distinguished from the protesters. I don't really have a lot of tolerance for guys who attack cops. But that's not to say you're wrong about the disparate way they've treated those guys versus the way they treated the Black Lives Matter rioters over the summer. And the, more than 80 protests that turned into riots where buildings were burned, lives were taken, cops were hurt, and these Democrats didn't give two shits. And not just any Democrats, our vice president, Kamala Harris, had the nerve to stand up and clap when he said fund the police. She is such a hypocrite. She's not in favor of funding the police. As you point out, she was out there getting these rioters out on bail. This is a person who went and visited Jacob Blake after he resisted arrest, threw punches at cops, and then drew a knife on a cop, which is what got him shot multiple times in the back when the cops finally realized he was armed and coming for them.
The only thing I would add to that, or just my point of view, I actually think that Kamala Harris is for funding the police. Now that they are under her control and totally under the control of the left, because go look up in Canada and the way Justin Trudeau used the police to break the truckers and the Freedom Convoy. And so the Democrats are not anti-police. They just want them to be completely under their control. executing their game plan.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.